You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Jobs across city positions here at Town Square Media. And you'll be able to apply online at broadcastersvirtualjobfair.com.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Gary Harris Show for this Monday, October 28, 2024. Another month is just about to be in the rearview mirror. We've just got a few days left here in October, and then we'll turn the calendar to November, and, of course, of Halloween later this week, and then we'll get into the holiday season with Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's just amazing. And the college football season, you know, we talk about this just every year, but, you know, you go through the summer and then it gets here, man. And then really the snap of a fingers, it's getting gone. I mean, we're 2/3 of the way through the college football season, but still got some great football left. That's for sure. I'm Gary Harris. I've got Chase Brumfeld, my main man, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline at 205-342-9904. We've got a good guest list, as always, on Mondays, and we'll be entertaining your phone calls, as always. But first, I need to tell you, this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit. It really is just a better way of banking, because Alabama Credit Union, unlike a traditional banking institution, is taking its profits and returning them to you, the member, in the form of lower interest rates and higher dividends. That's something we can all get excited about, and we certainly are excited about it here at the Gary Harris Show. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Enjoy today and feel good about your money. And put a extra change in your pocket. All right, Rodney Orr from Tider Insider TV, TiderInsider.com at 9:30 on Alabama football. And we've got Casey Smith on golf coming up at 10:30 as Justin Thomas played great at the Zozo Championship over in Japan. 72 holes, only one bogey. He shot 19 under par, and that allowed him to finish tied for second. Now, what's disappointing is that he didn't win. He had more PGA Tour wins than anybody in the field, had not won, though, in 29 months, and was in position to do so. But in this case, it wasn't really that he didn't play well. He played great in the final round. He hit great putts. He just hit a lot of putts that didn't go in. And what I mean by that is, sometimes you're missing putts and they just look bad. That wasn't the case for JT. He had some putts. I watched that because of the time difference, Japan being a number of hours ahead of us. When I got home Saturday night after the WVUA 23 News at 10 and Alabama football game and everything, I was able to watch the back nine on the Golf Channel. And in that back nine, he probably had 3 or 4 putts for birdie that looked like they were going into the teeth of the hole, just right in the dead in the hole, and they didn't go in. They burned the edge, or they just hung on the lip or something like that. But so he did not win, but he came very, very close, and he looked like the old Justin Thomas. So we'll get into that with Casey Smith on golf coming up at 10:30. As I said, your phone calls are welcome on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline, 205-342-9904. Your thoughts on what we saw this past Saturday in Tuscaloosa are welcome. Alabama 34 and Missouri nothing. Now, I did a little Facebook analysis on my Gary Harris WVUA 23 Facebook page Saturday night as well, and you're welcome to go watch that. But you have to put everything in context from the standpoint that Brady Cook tried to play and played for a while, but was not 100%, and then later left the game. Noel, their leading rusher, didn't play. But I don't care. You know, you have to play. You play who you play. And for Alabama to get a shutout, that's hard to do in college football today. It's hard to do in the SEC particularly. And it was the first SEC shutout for the Crimson Tide since 2020 against Mississippi State. 34-0, 13-0 at half. Second half was really impressive. First half offensively, it looked a lot like it'd been looking lately. A little bit uneven. But in the second half, I thought we saw something to really kind of get excited about if you're an Alabama fan. The running game got going with the running backs. Haynes, obviously, Miller, and Richard Young came in. And I think busted off a long run. I want to say had 3 carries for 66 yards. Haynes had a 35-yard touchdown run that was memorable, to say the least. Jalen ran for 50 yards and a touchdown. He didn't throw any interceptions. He threw for over 200 yards. Bama didn't turn it over. They had 3 interceptions. Just a really solid win over a pretty good football team in Missouri. They only had 1 loss coming in. So I think that gives, I said last week, as up and down as that performance at Tennessee was, and it was a disappointment, a good performance on Saturday would put everybody in a positive frame of mind going into the bye week. And now you have that. It doesn't mean you're going to win at LSU a week from this coming Saturday night. It doesn't mean that. You still got to go down there and play. They're going to be a hungry team. They lost on Saturday night in College Station to Texas A&M. Texas A&M now the only unbeaten team in the SEC. But because of the performance against Missouri, everybody's in a positive frame of mind, understanding that you're 6-2 overall, you're 3-2 in the SEC, and if you win these last 4 games at 10-2, you're going to have an excellent case for the college football playoff. So there's a lot of positivity right now in regard to where this Alabama team is at. Now, there'd be more positivity had Bama not lost to Vanderbilt or Tennessee, but it's still a pretty good place to be in. And I'm wondering what everybody out there thinks about it. All right, on this episode of the show, we're going to run down all the games from the SEC this past weekend. We are also going to take a look at Bama in the NFL, and what a day it was, as always, for Bama in the NFL. I track it every Sunday, put it out on social media. I'll run that down for you this morning. All of the really terrific performances by Alabama football. It's just, if you're an Alabama football fan, watching NFL games on Thursday night, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday night, is fun from the standpoint that you get to watch NFL football, but it's even more fun because you're watching so many Bama guys. And like I said, I'm going to track them, most of them for you, some of the performances that we had on Sunday. That's coming up in today's show. Chase, how was your football weekend?
It was great. My mom came in for the weekend. She's a big Mizzou fan. I was able to get her to go to the game. Quite honestly, she was quiet the rest of the weekend. Didn't think that it was going to be that bad. I tried to warn her, but she was, she loves Missouri. So, yeah, it was good overall, though. Good to see college football. I was really shocked with how close Vanderbilt was with Texas. I thought Texas was going to squash Vanderbilt, but it's just kind of the parity. And now I guess I have to get used to that, Gary. So it's kind of weird a little bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are. It's it's a different time in college football, and I think we're adjusting. So your mom was able to go to the game. Did you go with her?
No, she went with my dad. I stayed at the studio.
Okay.
I had to cover the game. So
you were working Saturday. That's right. That's right. Well, I wonder, the reason I asked you, of course, I was in the press box until I went down about midway through the fourth quarter when I was allowed to get on the field. But I don't know where they were sitting, but I know that a lot of people that were sitting on the east side, it was hot in those stands. I talked to some people who, some people left at halftime. It was so hot, but a lot of it had to depend on where you were sitting. But you would think it was a beautiful day now, but to be that late in October and be that hot was kind of weird. But still better than early September. But it was a warm one out there at Bryant-Denny Stadium. But you're right. I think a lot of fans are somewhat surprised that Alabama won the game 34-0 based on their recent performances. But it goes to show you, Chase, that this Alabama team is still really talented, and they're still a team that can beat anybody that they line up against. And as I said, disappointing that they lost those 2 games, but there's nothing you can do about that now. So you just have to move on, and that's what they're looking to do on Saturday, that's what they'll be looking to do a week from Saturday against LSU down in Baton Rouge, and we'll get into that game more as well. No press conference today for Alabama football. They are going to be busy with Kalen DeVore speaking to the Monday morning quarterback club over in Birmingham. So he'll be doing a media appearance, even though there's no press conference today for Alabama football. All right, it's 12 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. We're off and running here on the Gary Harris Show. This hour being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Let's go ahead and line those phone calls up for the next segment before we get to Rodney Orr at 9:30. 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904 is the number on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. So go ahead and give us a call. We want to hear from you, your thoughts on the big win over Missouri and the upcoming game a week from Saturday. We get a little bit of a respite, get a little bit of a Halloween break from Alabama football, certainly not from college football. We'll have the big game between Florida and Georgia this coming Saturday down in Jacksonville. But no Alabama game this Saturday, but still plenty of Crimson Tide football to talk about here on the Gary Harris Show. You go ahead and give us a call. We'll be right back after this on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa Thread.
The Tuscaloosa Veterans Administration Medical Center is sponsoring a parade to honor veterans. That will be at 10 a.m. on November the 6th. The parade will include high school bands and first responders. It will be held on the Medical Center grounds. Monday, November the 11th, is the actual celebration of Veterans Day nationwide. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special.
Made queso, sweet vinaigrette dressing, and spicy Cajun sauce. And check out our breakfast catering menu. Lou's Q and Brew is open 7 days a week. We're located at 1825 McFarland Boulevard North in the Northridge Center.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials. And for the best Mexican cuisine in West Alabama, remember, the name is Los Tarascos, with locations in Tuscaloosa and Northport.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today. The high for this afternoon around 80. Tonight mostly fair with the low at 57. The long dry spell continues tomorrow and Wednesday. Partially sunny both days. Highs between 79 and 82. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 64 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama!
On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
9:18. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. And wow, this is an interesting case study this morning. I've always, since I've been doing this show for over 9 years, have figured out one thing about callers, and we love every one of them. But you're going to get more calls after a loss than a win, and you're going to get obviously less calls when there's a weekend where there's no game coming up. So that's kind of my own little personal observation after doing this show for well over 9 years, and it's applicable this morning. We've had no calls yet, which is surprising on Monday, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact there's no game coming up this Saturday. People kind of like a little bit of a break, And I'll tell you what, I've enjoyed the fact there's been 2 bye weeks this year, this season. It's kind of been fun, and they also, are pretty content this Monday morning because it's 34-0 win. So there's, some positivity surrounding it. But we'd love to get some calls, 205-342-9904. All right, SEC football from this past weekend. And we'll run it down for you. And also, let's see, how did I do on my picks this week against the point spread? Let's see here. Texas beat Vanderbilt. I had Vandy in that one, getting whatever they were getting, 18 points or what have you. So I covered that one. I don't have my sheet in front of me. Chase, I can't remember who I took in the LSU and A&M game. I know I planned to take A&M. Did I wind up taking A&M? Do you remember? I think I did. I'll have to double check that. But if I did, that's 2-0.
Yeah, you took A&M.
Yeah, so that's 2-0. I took Missouri because I picked it up 38-23, and I stayed with it even though I thought Alabama was going to cover because the line shot up by 17.5, I guess, with the Brady Cook injury. So I wound up having Missouri there, so that's a loss, 2-1. I had Ole Miss. I'm pretty sure they did not cover. That's 2-2. I had Mississippi State. They did not cover. That's 2-3. And I had Auburn, and they did cover and win. So I went 3-3 this past week. I'm pretty sure. I have to double check my sheet. But, Texas over Vanderbilt, 27-24. Vanderbilt, give them credit. They got a pretty good football team. And, they beat Alabama, took Missouri to double overtime, and lost to Texas by 3. So beat Kentucky and Lexington. They're not a bad team. A&M, this is the game that's everybody's buzzing about, and the job that Mike Elko has done, and then the fact that Mike Elko did kind of take a shot, or perceived shot at Jimbo Fisher after the game when he was talking about the program and, we're a real program. We're not going to sit up here and, talk fast and put a bunch of stuff out there. And I think everybody kind of assumed that was a shot at the former head coach, who, of course, Mike Elko worked for as the defense coordinator at A&M, Jimbo Fisher, before Elko took the head job at Duke. But A&M right now, it's, in the preseason, we just kind of assumed that Texas was going to be the dominant team in the state of Texas, and it certainly looked that way. And A&M lost early at home to Notre Dame. That's the only thing that's kept the Aggies from being undefeated. They're undefeated in conference play. And they absolutely put a beat down on LSU in that second half. In the first half, it looked like it was going to be an LSU runaway victory. And Nussmeier, the quarterback, was playing great, and everyone was on social media talking about Nussmeier for Heisman and all this stuff. And in the second half, A&M ramped up the pressure packages, and they got to Nuss. And he really struggled, and LSU struggled. And a huge win for Texas A&M, 38-23. As we mentioned, of course, Bama over Mizzou, 34-0. Ole Miss got a needed win. They were down at half to Oklahoma, but win at 26-14. Arkansas hung 58 on Mississippi State. So much for me and my, and this, of course, this is Chase in school, but so much for me and my Mississippi State's playing better philosophy. They got worn out. And, of course, Auburn got its first SEC win of the year, as I did pick that one over Kentucky in Lexington. 24-10 was the final score in that one. All right, we got some phone calls. We're going to start off with Pat, and then we'll get to Tony over in Birmingham. Good morning, Pat. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. I heard you say you needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah, I always want to hear from you. Absolutely. I want to talk to some people on a Monday. How's it going?
I want to know what's the latest on Cole Adams. Cole Adams is has extremely good hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not happy if we can't have Terrell with receiving punts. Is he out for the season?
I don't know. I have, I'm hoping we'll get something on him. No press conference today. Maybe Coach DeBoer will mention it over at the media session that he's doing at the quarterback club. I don't know is my answer. I've heard some mixed reports on that. Nothing official. I hope he isn't like you. I like Cole Adams as a football player, but I don't know his status going forward.
Yeah, I mean, he just seems to be somebody that you can depend on. He's only, I think his longest punt return's been like 40 yards or something like that. But he does have pretty close to world-class speed. He was one of the fastest people in the state of Oklahoma when he was recruited out of high school. But he's been hurt a lot, So, I don't know about that. But I just like the fact that you can depend on him. Even if you're catching the ball on the 9-yard line, it's a whole lot better than getting the ball on the 1-yard line after a punt. I mean, after they touch to put a punt down, when you get a punt. And so, I mean, having a little bit of room back here. Hey, but, man, what did you think about, my backup quarterback coming in, getting the ball on the 4-yard line and marching it down and basically letting the other team saying uncle and not letting him go in and score. What do you think about that?
Well, I was glad to see Ty get in to the game. I mean, I think everybody was, and excited to see him get some opportunities. Of course, he just handed the ball off, but I think the future is bright for Ty.
I just coached the board not wanting to roll the score up that way.
Well, exactly. But I was glad to see him get in. I think, if something, and you don't want this to happen to your starting quarterback, but if Jalen ever went down, I think Ty would do a good job. And I think a lot of people are excited about him still. And I was, just happy to see him get into the game. I think there are a lot of fans out there that feel like that he should have had some other opportunities in some of these games. But yeah, and Richard Young too. Richard Young got in there and popped that run. I thought he might go all the way there for a minute.
I thought Richard Young was faster than that, man. He came in as a highly rated running back. He got caught from behind, so embarrassing.
Yeah, of course, some of those DBs can really run, but he sure popped it through that hole. So yeah, it was just a good day. Alabama needed a game like that against a pretty good team, and to get to be dominant and shut somebody out. And as I said, it was the first shutout in the SEC in 4 years, their second shutout this season. So that was badly needed, Pat. It really was. So, hey, man, I'm going to get one more phone call in before I hit the break. Thank you, my friend.
See you. Yeah,
all right, let's get to Tony over in Birmingham. Good morning, Tony.
Hey, how you doing, Gary?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Gary, I read a lot of things on some media this weekend, and I don't know if I even agree with the question, but I'll ask you to see what you think. Do you think Alabama played really well, or do you think the injuries caught up to Missouri, or do you think it's a little of both?
It's probably a little of both, but I think Alabama played really well. I mean, like I said in my Facebook analysis on Saturday night, you can only play who you play. And what I mean by that is Alabama can't help it that Brady Cook was hurt and tried to go and Noel was out. You can't control that. You can control how you play. And so I thought you have to keep it in context, because I don't think there's any doubt that Missouri with a healthy Brady Cook is a different team than what we saw. But you still play the team that you play. And Alabama played really well. I thought in the second half, that was their best half of football since going back to the Georgia game, first half in that game. I mean, they did a lot of things well in that game in the second half. They ran the ball extremely well. The defense got off the field. So I thought Alabama played really well. Now, do I think that would have been 34-0 if Brady Cook is healthy and plays the whole game? No, I don't. I don't think it would have been 34-0. But he didn't. He wasn't healthy, and he didn't play the whole game. And Alabama took advantage of it. So I'm encouraged. That was what I was hoping to see. Tony, you probably heard me saying last week that how we felt on this Monday going into the bye week, was going to be dictated by how the team played, not necessarily by whether or not they won, because I think we all felt like they'd win the game. But how did they play in the game? And right now, with the way they played, I think there's a lot of positivity and hope that they can finish this thing out with 4 straight wins and get to 10-2 and be in position to be in the discussion for the college football playoffs. So that's what I'm hoping for. The game Saturday night in Baton Rouge, as you know, it's going to be the telltale game. I mean, it's going to dictate the season. And but if they win that one, this could still wind up being a really good season, and we could see Alabama hosting the college football playoff game.
Yeah. Well, Gary, I was excited to see that Alabama did not get away from the running game after it didn't pop on the first 2 or 3 possessions.
Right.
Again, you're going to have to line up and beat me consistently. And I'm talking about it's going to have to be several 3-and-outs in a row with not being able to move the football on the ground before I just totally give up on the run when you have the offensive line we have and you have the skills that we have in the backfield. That's something that I thought we needed to be a little bit more of all year, is a little bit more patient on the run game and not panic and get away from it like we have done in the past. And hey, I'll say this to you, Gary, too. You said something about Mississippi State. I don't think they're great. I think they might get up for certain games. I think Arkansas is probably a little bit more hungry, but I actually think Mississippi State's going to beat Tennessee. I do, personally. I can see that being a little bit of a trap game for Tennessee.
Well, I'll tell you this, Tony. If I'm going to remember this. If Mississippi State beats Tennessee, I'm going to give you your due, and I want you to call in because you're the only person I bet that calls into this show that's going to pick Tennessee to lose that game. So I'm going to remember that because you know what? Stranger things happen. I can't see it, but if it happens, I certainly want to give you your props because that's going out on the list.
It is, and I got nothing to lose.
That's right.
It's wishful thinking on my part, so not a lot of skill involved. But no, Gary, I think that, and I got to tell you too, man. On the long run that I think Young had, did you see Todd Simpson coming up the sideline to make a block?
Yeah, he was really engaged. He's a good quarterback. There's no doubt about it.
He is.
Todd's a good player, and I was proud to see him get in. And like you said, when he got in, he didn't just go through the motions. He was engaged in the game, and I thought he looked good. Hey, thank you, Tony.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Bye.
Appreciate it. 9:31. We'll come back with Rodney Orr next here on the Gary Harris Show.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a...
This is within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Tide 100.9. For more coverage of Alabama football, visit us at Tide100.9.com or download the free Tide 100.9 app.
The Crimson Tide will not be denied.
All right, 9:34. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and it's time for Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV, for his weekly Alabama football analysis segment. Good morning, Rodney. How are you?
Hey, Gary. How are you?
Fine. And Alabama 34, Missouri nothing. I said last week that how Alabama fans felt about the rest of this season was going to be dictated by what happened in this game, not necessarily by whether or not Alabama won the game. I think most Alabama fans felt like they would win, but by how they played. And so I think there's a real positivity this morning, 34-0. Granted, you have to keep it in context. Brady Cook tried to play and played several possessions, but wasn't effective and left the game. If he's healthy, they're probably a different team. Noel, their leading rusher, was out. That's not Alabama's fault. You play who you play, and I thought it was, especially the second half, but you could argue it was Alabama's most complete game of the season to get a shutout in conference play, which is hard to do. In the second half, the offense really, I thought, got a rhythm with the running game. 34-0. It was an impressive performance, in my opinion, Rodney. I wonder if you agree.
That was pretty much my Sunday Thoughts piece from last night, was that I felt like that it was probably Alabama's best overall performance from start to finish.
from the start of the game to the finish of the game. There was consistency. There wasn't a lot of things that we've seen in the past, some costly penalties, no turnovers in this game. We've seen those the last few games, the last 3 games. Alabama's had, 6 turnovers. So I thought they played much cleaner. We've harped about on this show here, on Tider Insider TV and other things. We've talked about how, the avoidable mistakes, those were things that were killing Alabama. The self-inflicted wounds are hurting Alabama in some of these games. And I thought they reduced those kind of self-inflicted wounds considerably in this game. So it was a much cleaner game. You pointed out, Brady Cook was injured. He came into the game injured. They didn't have their top rusher, all of those things. At the same time, the sense I get was I don't know that it would have really mattered. Cook did start the game, but there was so much pressure on him that I thought Alabama performed well when he was in there. He played 5 possessions. I think every one of those possessions ended in a punt. Pine comes in. I mean, obviously, all due respect, he's not a high-level SEC passer by any stretch of the imagination. Probably Alabama wasn't threatened much whatsoever from that perspective. And it might have made things a little easier for the defense, but I did not see receivers running free for touchdowns like we have in several of the past games. Thought they did a really good job in coverage. I thought they did a great job pressuring the quarterback. They got 3 interceptions. They even had the goal line stand late. I thought that was really good from a pride standpoint. So overall, I thought it was really encouraging. You mentioned the running game. I do think we saw some of that starting to really click. The Justice Haynes had his best run of the season by far. Thought that was a great sign, that 35-yard run. I know a lot of people were saying, hey, Justin's running soft in these games. He didn't run soft on that play. I mean, he trucked the Missouri defender. They used some finesse to get into the end zone. I thought it was a great run. You also had Jam had a couple of touchdowns. I thought Milroe used his legs effectively. So overall, I thought that it was a really good performance.
Let's stick with the offense specifically, and then I'll get to the defense specifically. The offensive line. I mean, they were physical, man. And you said it. They stuck with the running game. Wasn't very effective in the first quarter. I thought Jalen did a better job of kind of taking what the defense gave Alabama. They showed patience on offense because Missouri's a pretty good defensive football team. And you weren't going to go out there and, get it all at one time. So, 6-0 late in the second quarter. They get the touchdown before half. But I just thought the patience on offense and the physicality is really what stood out to me, Rodney.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job. I'm talking about DeBoer, Nick Sheridan. If you look at the early in the game, they didn't ask Milroe to do a lot. Quick throws.
Right.
I mean, these were designed to get the ball out really quickly, easy throws, build some rhythm, build some confidence. Got some good plays off of that. Had a couple of, jet sweeps, one to Kendrick Law early in the game that he was had a nice run on. So I thought they made it really simple for Milroe to get into that rhythm, to get into a positive flow. And then he made some throws down the field. The throw to Emmanuel Henderson that set up the first touchdown right before the half. Nice play. Again, it wasn't big. He didn't have a lot of eye-popping numbers. He was 16 of 26 for like 2-something, low 200s, 215, I think it was. But whatever it was, he protected the ball. He didn't turn it over. We've seen in recent weeks he's had 5 interceptions. He had a fumble that was, when he was hit, that certainly wasn't all his fault. But again, the turnovers, he didn't turn the ball over. So he managed the game well, and you saw the players around him play really well.
Defensively, some guys out in the secondary, but very similar thoughts. The defensive line, I thought, was one of their best games. Getting off blocks, the tackling, the physicality that they showed. Of course, Drew Pine, as you mentioned, is not a great passer, but still, they harassed the guy. And I thought that Bray Hubbard stepping in there at safety, obviously you'd love to have Sabb come back here in a few weeks, but I thought Bray Hubbard was kind of a breakout star in this game. I think he had maybe 8 or 9 tackles, Rodney. had an interception. But when you get a shutout in the SEC, you know you played well. But I really did think that the defense just had a different level of, I just thought, intensity with the way they played and the way they got after Missouri.
Yeah, I think we've probably seen some gradual improvements that really weren't something that grabbed you in some of these other games, South Carolina, even Tennessee. There were some things that you saw that they were, probably getting better, making progress little by little. I think we saw more of that in this game. Defensively, like you said, Drew Pine did not really challenge the secondary, and I think that obviously makes it easier on the defense when you kind of think, okay, this guy's not a great passer. He does have great receivers, obviously, so you have to be, certainly there's a threat there with a Luther Burden or Theo Weiss, but at the same time, I think it obviously allowed them to kind of shut down the Missouri run game, although Missouri in that last drive kind of piled up some yards against the substitutes, but still at the same time, I thought Alabama defended the run, really well. And Bray Hubbard, made a great play on the interception too, played it like a center fielder. Guy that doesn't have a ton of experience, but he came in and played extremely well. So he's a really, really good athlete, as you know, outstanding athlete, good speed. He's a guy that was an outstanding baseball player in high school, was committed to Southern Miss to play baseball there before he, flipped to play football at Alabama. So I thought he did a fantastic job being able to step in and be ready to play.
And we're getting to see Graham Nicholson some. And, it's just weird how the season's worked out. But you feel like, if Alabama is going to go ahead and finish this thing off, that you're going to need to be able to count on your field goal kicker. And I know he missed the 54-yarder at Tennessee, but he hit a couple field goals in this game. I think one of them was a 47-yarder and showed, I think, and is beginning to show that he's a quality kicker. And you need to feel good about your field goal kicker. And I think Alabama now in the last couple of weeks is building a little confidence with him as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was really important for him to step up and knock down that 47-yarder, and then later the 39-yarder gave Alabama 6-0 lead. But those were big kicks, and certainly I think that helps him kind of get into a groove. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities this year for field goal attempts, but so those are big because, like you said, down the stretch you're going to need those. So yeah, that was another really promising thing.
Ryan, I want to get your thoughts on a couple of moments in the game. Pat called in earlier with one of them. I'll hold that one on Ty Simpson. But the defense, at the end of the game, near the end of the game, when Missouri had a chance to score, they stepped up. And then on fourth down, called a timeout. Womack put a couple of guys back in. And I just thought the pride and the desire to keep that shutout on the board, and Q Robinson, who we kind of know as a edge guy, stepping up in that hole and plugging that hole and just stonewalling that Missouri running back to keep the zero, the goose egg on the scoreboard. I thought that said a lot about this team. They were really engaged there. The game was over, but the pride to get that shutout. And then I saw a moment where Milroe went over to Womack and gave him a big hug and kind of whispered in his ear, like, man, you guys did the job today. I thought that said something about this team that made me feel good as somebody who covers Alabama to see that this team's still together. You could tell there at the end of the game by the way that defense, stood up and preserved that shutout.
Yeah, I thought that was a very, as well as they did throughout the game, and wanting to get the shutout, the way they kind of celebrated that, and they should have. To keep Missouri out of the end zone there. I think, like you said, you kind of described it exactly the way I would see it. I think they've worked really hard, keeping this team kind of focused and on the right things. And I think this, like I said, I think we've seen the defense kind of gradually improve. I thought that they found some things with Milroe that they can do that they're comfortable with, that they need to kind of, keep him where he is and, allow him to be effective in what he can do extremely well. And DeBoer even said that. And so I think in moving forward, you kind of, have a good feel. They've got 2 weeks now, to prepare for LSU. And don't forget, when Alabama came out against Georgia, regardless of what happened in the second half, when they came out against Georgia after that bye week, they were ready. They were prepared. So I think, going down to LSU, it's going to be a huge game, as you know, for Alabama. Both teams fighting to keep their playoff hopes alive. So it's going to be a real challenge, but you've got 2 weeks. It's going to be interesting to see, how much improvement can Alabama make over the next 2 weeks to be ready for that game.
And the other point, and Pat actually called in and pointed this out, but he was right, or I think he's right, and I guess I could add Richard Young in here too, is late in the game like that when the game's over, Ty Simpson comes in, a lot of people feel like he should have had an opportunity to get into some other games, but he didn't. And I know, he handed the ball off, but you could see he was engaged. He wasn't just going through the motions. He was downfield trying to block. And obviously Richard Young pops that run. I thought he might take it, might house it there for a moment, but the DB was able to catch him. But I think that says a lot about your football team, Ronnie. Guys that, Young a 5-star, Simpson a 5-star, haven't played like they would like to. But to come in there at the end of the game and like I said, instead of just going through the motions, actually get in there and want to perform and stay engaged. Obviously the run that was popped, but I thought that said a lot about this team too, and that those guys were not just, hey, we're just handing it off here, taking a knee. We're going to come in here and try to go score, and probably could have scored, to be honest with you, had they had a mind to do so. What did you think of that at the end of the game and what it says about this team?
Well, I think it says a lot. I mean, I think it says a lot about those players. I think it says a lot about their position coaches, to be able to kind of create that kind of attitude when they come into the game. They want to take advantage of whatever opportunities they have, Ty Simpson, he hasn't sulked, things we've heard. I think he's been a guy that's just patiently waiting his opportunity whenever that comes. It may not come until next year. There may be something that presents itself this year if he had to play, but he wants to be ready. I think that's a sign of maturity. That's a great thing to see. I think when you saw him running down the field, trying to be in a position to maybe help Richard Young score with a block, I think that shows a lot. Shows a lot of leadership. Shows a lot of maturity. I think, it was a great run by Richard Young. I mean, he kind of got knocked sideways. I think if he kind of had a straight shot, he might have been able to take it the distance. But, once he kind of got turned sideways a little bit and trying to regain that acceleration was a little bit, by that time the DB had a little angle on him. But anyway, I think all of those things, I think those are positives. I think for a guy like Richard Young, he hasn't been able to play a lot. He's been injured some. To have that positive play, it just breeds the right kind of attitude, I think, moving forward.
All right, Rodney, no Alabama fan wishes that the Tide had lost at Vanderbilt or Tennessee, but they did, and nothing you can do about that now. But you can't control the rest of the season in these Final Four games. You just aren't going to convince me that if Alabama's 10-2, I said this last year about a one-loss Alabama team. I said if Alabama's got a one loss, they're getting in the playoff. And if Alabama's 10-2 here at the end of the season, I think they're going to be hosting a first-round playoff game. But this game, we'll talk more about it next week. This game coming up in Baton Rouge is a huge football game. You already mentioned the bye. I'm with you. I think I didn't really think I liked 2 byes, but I think it's perfect for this team. And now LSU's got it too. I get that. But the season now is right there. It's a 4-game season, Rodney. How do you feel about this team navigating these Final 4 games?
Better than last week.
Yeah.
Again, you kind of, that's just the way it is as you move through the season. But you want to see positive steps. I think there's been some resiliency there, and I think it starts with Kalen DeBoer. There's a lot of talk, a lot of chatter. This is a huge transition. You've lost 2 games. You haven't had 2 losses in October since when? 07 or whatever?
Yeah,
and everybody's talking about it. But obviously, they didn't. DeBoer and staff aren't listening to external things. They went out there and they played really well. They played with a lot of intensity, positive signs moving into the bye week. This win, I think, gives you a lot of momentum, a lot of positives, a lot of positive energy going into this bye week. Again, I talk about the way they prepared for Georgia. You should have a really good bye week. Get some guys maybe healed up a little more, be at full speed going down to Baton Rouge, and hopefully, they can play better on the road than they did at Vanderbilt or they did at Tennessee, and keep these kind of avoidable mistakes to a minimum. And they can do that, gain some confidence, improve a little bit defensively. It's going to be a real challenge because LSU's explosive offensively. They have a ton of weapons. You're probably going to be hit with some plays down there. You know that. But again, I think it's just, managing offensively what you do, being productive, defensively, continuing to keep teams out of the end zone. Then you give yourself a great opportunity to win the game.
And lastly, Rodney, on the recruiting trail, last week Alabama flipped 4-star athletic tight end Marshall Pritchett from North Carolina to Alabama. You can really see how this offense, how they want to use the tight ends. And this is one of those guys, again, long, athletic, will need to put on some weight. But your assessment of Marshall Pritchett and his flip from North Carolina to Alabama.
Yeah, I've always liked him. Like you said, he's got great height. He's really an athletic guy who can jump up, catch the ball, seems to have a lot of instincts for the ball, whether it's as a receiver, tracking it, those types of things, jumping for it, almost like he's got some basketball experience. His father was Wes Pritchett, or is Wes Pritchett, and was the leading tackler, I think he on the 1988 Notre Dame national championship team. And I always think, bloodlines are important, because you kind of seem to grow up with the game and have a really good feel for it. And I think Marshall Pritchett does. I like him because you got Caleb Edwards now from California, great tight end prospect, 6'6", 240. And now you bring in a guy, 6'5", 215, that plays a little bit different role in Marshall Pritchett. So I like it. I like both those guys, and they've addressed the tight ends really well.
Great segment, Rodney. Some terrific insight, and I know more of that is available at TiderInsider.com.
Right. It's TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. You can get instant access with the credit card if you prefer. There is an address there to send a check. Gives y'all our premium information, but also our All Sports Forum. It's our community of Alabama fans there. Man, it's been nonstop. It's been a lot of discussion, a lot of information right there on TiderInsider.com.
Thanks a lot, Rod.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
All right, 9:53, and we'll take a timeout and come back and wrap up hour number one right after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, we're going to recap Alabama and the Missouri Tigers. We're going to do that with Barrett Sallee. We'll also do that with Martin Houston. We'll start at 2 o'clock with the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is sponsored by Daniel Moore Art, and the bad and the ugly is sponsored by You Know Who. We'll talk about it starting at 2 o'clock right here on The Game. T-Town Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after.
But either way,
you're getting a winner.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy filet, now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today. The high for this afternoon around 80. Tonight mostly fair with a low at 57. The long dry spell continues tomorrow and Wednesday. Partially sunny both days. Highs between 79 and 82. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 64 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:57. That's to wrap it up for hour number one, brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. We appreciate you staying with us for the first hour. We got another great hour coming up. More phone calls. We'll hear from Kalen DeBoer's post post-game press conference on Saturday. Casey Smith on golf. That's all coming up in the second hour of the Gary Harris Show.
For Alabama basketball. Presented in part by BMW of Tuscaloosa and by Pearl River Resort in Choctaw, Mississippi. WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
Chicago Bears corner Tyreek Stevenson apologized on social media after he was seen taunting fans right before the Commanders beat the Bears on a Hail Mary heave at the end of the game. Stevenson posted on X, quote, "To Chicago and teammates, my apologies for lack of awareness and focus. The game ain't over until zeros hit the clock. Can't take anything for granted. Notes taken. Improvement will happen." Close quote. ESPN reports Giants quarterback Daniel Jones will not be on a short leash tonight for Monday Night Football against the Steelers. Jones was benched in last week's loss to the Eagles, but took all the first-team reps in practice this week. And Game 3 of the World Series is tonight at 8 Eastern on Fox from the Bronx. Dodgers with a 2-0 series lead on the Yankees. Walker Buehler will start for Los Angeles. Clark Schmidt for New York. Finally in soccer, Manchester United announced they have parted ways with manager Erik ten Hag.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for University of Alabama sports. It's Monday, October 28th, a little after 10 a.m., and we're ready to roll with another hour. Casey Smith on golf coming up at 10:30. We'll talk about Justin Thomas almost winning the Zozo Championship. In fact, I thought that probably should have won it. I thought he played well enough to win on Sunday, but just didn't get the putts to fall, but he putted well during the week. He hit the ball beautifully, really put on a clinic, and looks like he's poised to get back in the win column for the first time in nearly 29 months, 2.5 years nearly. So we'll discuss that coming up at the bottom of the hour. Also, Kalen DeVore's post-game comments from Saturday evening after Alabama's 34-0 shutout victory over Missouri coming up as well. Right now, phone lines are open on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. That's 205-342-9904. And let me get into our Bama and the NFL, and I try to track this the best I can every Sunday. And, obviously there's some people that I miss. There's so many more players but, this is a pretty good sampling of what happened yesterday that I put together and posted on my socials, both the Gary Harris WVUA 23 Facebook page and at Gary Harris _WVUA on Twitter. So let's run it down. First of all, Tua made his return after the concussion protocol, and I thought played well in the game against the Arizona Cardinals for the Miami Dolphins. Unfortunately, Miami didn't win the game. Wasn't his fault. I mean, the defense at the end couldn't make a play against Kyler Murray, and they wound up losing that game by a point. I think it was 29-28. But Tua went 28 of 38 for 234 yards and a touchdown, no picks. So I thought he played well in the game. Obviously, their offense is much different with him in the game, but disappointing that they didn't get the victory at home. Some other top performances: Packers running back Josh Jacobs against Jacksonville. How about this stat line? 25 carries, 127 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's strong. His teammate, safety Xavier McKinney, leads the NFL in interceptions. He's got 6 now. He had an interception and 6 tackles against the Jaguars as the Packers got the win. Jahmyr Gibbs might be the most explosive player in the NFL. The Lions running back 127 yards on just 11 carries and a touchdown, and had a long touchdown run. I believe it was 75 yards, where he just left everybody in his wake. Derrick Henry. Now, this is disappointing, not because of Derrick Henry, but because Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, didn't use him enough, and because of the fact that the Ravens lost to the Browns in Cleveland. Henry had good stats, 11 carries, 73 yards. That's nearly 7 yards a carry and a touchdown. But just 11 carries? Really? And Jameis Winston got the start because, of course, Deshaun Watson out for the year. And Jameis Winston played a lot better than Deshaun Watson has in any game this year. If Deshaun Watson is the quarterback, I'm sure the Ravens win the game. But Jameis Winston, 340 passing and 3 touchdowns. Browns beat the Ravens. Derrick Henry, though, you got to get the guy more than 11 carries. I'm sorry. Getting back to that Lions game, Terrion Arnold, the cornerback, had 7 tackles for Detroit. Brian Branch had 6 tackles at safety for Detroit. Calvin Ridley in that same game for Tennessee, they got hammered by the Lions, but he had 10 catches for 143 yards. He only had 12 catches coming in, so they got him involved. Jalen Hurts had a great game at quarterback for the Eagles as they blew out Cincinnati 37-17. 16 of 20 for 236 through the air and a touchdown. 10 carries for 37 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. So, I mean, that's taking care of business right there. Jalen Hurts was fantastic for the Eagles in that game against the Bengals. And in that same game, he hooked up with Devontae Smith for a long touchdown, and Smith had 6 catches for 85 yards in that TD. The Jets, Quentin Williams, although the Jets are one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL, at defensive tackle, had a big game, 3 tackles and 1.5 sacks against the Patriots. Brian Robinson in that amazing win that the Commanders had on the Hail Mary against the Bears, 16 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown, 1 catch for 11 yards. Josh Jobe for Seattle at safety had 7 tackles and an interception. Jerry Jeudy for the Browns against the Ravens had 5 catches for 79 yards. Will Anderson Jr., edge rusher for the Texans, had 7 tackles and a sack. Bryce Young back in the starting lineup and did some good things for the Panthers at quarterback. 24 of 37 for 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, did have 2 picks. One of those picks was by his former teammate Patrick Surtain, the cornerback for the Broncos. Eddie Jackson, safety for the Ravens, had 10 tackles against the Browns, although he was beat for that game-winning touchdown. Jalen Armour-Davis, also for the Ravens in that game at corner, had 5 tackles. J.K. Scott punted 6 times for 57.3-yard average against the Saints. And Will Reichard back on Thursday night went 2 for 2 on field goals, 2 for 2 on extra points, as he has not missed a kick this season. Also, Bradley Bozeman made news, the center for the Chargers, when a defensive lineman tackled his quarterback, Justin Herbert, and then kind of twisted on his ankle. Bozeman came flying in and took care of business against that Saints defensive lineman. So that's your Bama in the NFL Sunday recap right now. Let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in Ellis. Hey, Ellis.
How's it going, Gary Harris?
Going well. Good to see you on Friday.
Yeah, it was good to see you. Yeah, I seen that video of Bradley Bozeman. You know, which it looked like he was trying to break his leg to me when he was twisting that quarterback's leg like that.
Yeah, that was not a good play by that safety lineman. And but I was glad to see Bozeman fire in there and protect his quarterback. And
yes,
because offensive linemen, you know, we do all these Bama and the NFL recaps. We don't mention offensive linemen much because they never hardly post any stats, obviously, unless they are in a tackle eligible situation or something like that. So it was good to see Bozeman, even though he got a 15-yard penalty on that play, he did it for the right reasons. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, and I bet you everybody congratulated him on it too after he got
the
field.
That's right, they sure did.
But the ball game didn't start off good this weekend, but it ended up, second half it was like a different team, and me and the other people have been talking and wondering if Coach DeBoer took over play calling in the second half.
No, I don't think that he did. I don't think that there's nothing that indicates that he took over the play calling. I think Nick Sheridan called the whole game. I think that, they did have in the game plan and throughout the week, obviously they made a decision that they were going to stick with the running game, be patient with it. And, in that second half, it paid dividends. There's no doubt about that. But I don't believe that there was any change in the play calling.
Defense, they played lights out. I was very pleased with the defense. And like that second half, the offense kicked in.
When you get a shutout in the SEC, you should be proud. Those are hard to come by. And, of course, Alabama had a string under Saban probably, from 2009, 8 or 9 through the mid-teens where they've got more. I think Alabama still has more shutouts in the SEC over like the last 15 years than just probably the rest of the SEC teams combined. I mean, it's unbelievable. But they hadn't had one in a while in the SEC.
I think it's 13, ain't it, Gary?
I'd have to look it up, 13. But I know they've had more than anybody else. That's for sure.
I was going to tell you one more thing. I know you got to go. After I left the show there, I stayed for White. Then went down and seen Christian and Corey. And then I went down Sorority Road and took a picture of all the artwork that they done. And, I mean, that is amazing how they do that.
It is. All the homecoming
amazing
artwork that they do with those put them up and post them in their yard, in front of their houses, and they have a competition, and the best decorated house wins a prize or wins some kind of recognition. So it's fun. If people have never done that, when next time you're here for a homecoming, make sure you go by and see all the displays. Really, really neat.
And I took a picture of them drones that was on the floor. On the ground out there in that little old open area. I didn't know that's what they was going to do until I had somebody send me a video of it. So at least I got to see the drones before they went up in the air.
Yeah, I tell you one thing. These home football games, not just homecoming, it's like the marketing people and all the people at these schools, they understand it's entertainment and the game is the biggest part of it, but the whole weekends are festive during the game, of course, with all the lights and all the different entertainment that they have. It's about keeping people engaged, man, and they do a lot of different stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah, I walked over 18,000 steps Friday down there.
Well, good for you, man. How about that?
And what about Justice Haynes? That hit he took, put that guy up and just laid him flat out and took off and went for a touchdown.
He sure did. That was a physical run, 35 yards. I thought it kind of epitomized the whole team on Saturday. That was the mindset they brought to that game. They were physical. They were fast for 60 minutes in the game, and it was a positive performance, man. It really was. So, but it was great to see you, Ellis. Look forward to seeing you again soon, man.
Yes, sir. Roll Tide.
Thank you. All right, let's get to Philip here on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Hey, Philip.
Hey, Gary, it's going to come down to third down conversions in the LSU game. I thought A&M really the speed they had in the second half when Moss came in and started running things for the Aggies really shook LSU up. And Alabama's got to have that same mentality, that same energy, and that same pop to beat LSU. LSU's not going to change up too much what they are. I think they're going to pass the football like crazy. They threw it 50 times the other night, and a lot of it was because they had to start airing it out. But I think Alabama can defend their running game, but Alabama's got to make sure that if they get 3rd and 5 or whatever, they convert on third downs.
That's right. That's right. You're usually right on, buddy.
All
right, thank you.
Super impressed with A&M.
Yeah, listen, how could you not be? I mean, that coach has come in there, Elko, and we knew A&M had talent. Again, we know how they've recruited. But Jimbo Fisher couldn't get them to play like this. And now he has, in one season, got them going. And now they've still got some tough games to go to, but that was a huge win for Texas A&M. And, they're on the verge of making it to the Atlanta for the first time ever. They still haven't even been to the SEC championship game since they came into the league. So they got an opportunity to do something special. But you're right, their athleticism, physicality, and speed on defense. They got after. Nussmeier looked great in that first half, and everybody was talking about first round draft pick and all of this stuff. And in the second half, they shut him down, man. Pressure, but like I like to say, pressure busts pipes, and it also gives quarterback fits. You know what I mean?
Oh, no doubt about it. And I'll tell you what, I would, they've got to be careful this Saturday in Columbia, South Carolina. But if they can do that and avoid an upset there and then, fall into Auburn, that Texas A&M game is going to be something else.
It is, but you said something. They are going to have to be careful Saturday in Columbia because South Carolina can get up for big games, and they've got a defense too. So it's going to be, that's one of those that A&M better be ready for. But if they're the kind of team that they appear to be, they'll navigate those waters okay. But we'll find out.
Well, defend the pass against LSU and keep that contained, and I think Alabama could be in good shape.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, man.
All right, it's 10:16 here on the Gary Harris Show. The YMCA of Tuscaloosa is not just a great place to get fit, but it's a great place to meet people, make friends. I just love the community of people there. Personal training is outstanding. Fitness classes, everything you need is at the YMCA. Everything to be the kind of person that you want to be in terms of your health and wellness. They can help you get on the right track. YMCA of Tuscaloosa, 2300 13th Street downtown. All right, we'll be back with some Kalen DeBoer comments from Saturday and also some more of your phone calls on the Gary Harris Show. Stay with us.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadways.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's Move Over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside.
Entire account before receiving 24 bill credits, and credit stop and balance are required finance agreement too. Bill credits end if you pay off device early. See how you can save versus the other big guys at T-Mobile.com/switch. Apple Intelligence coming fall 2024.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today. The high for this afternoon around 80. Tonight mostly fair with a low at 57. The long dry spell continues tomorrow and Wednesday. Partially sunny both days. Highs between 79 and 82. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 66 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
A national championship team covering a national championship team. The best sports talk in the state. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:20. We're back here on the Gary Harris Show on Todd 100.9 FM and 12:30 AM WTBC. And we're going to jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, and that's where we find Jim. Hey, Jim. Good morning.
Hey, if A&M and LSU wins out, they play again in the SEC championship game.
I hadn't looked at it that far. So LSU would beat would have Georgia. If Georgia wins out, what about them?
Well, if A&M and LSU wins out, Georgia could get the winner of Georgia or Tennessee could be a third team. So if it's A&M, LSU, and Georgia, A&M beat LSU, so they get one of the spots head to head.
Yeah, I get that. But how does the Georgia LSU tiebreaker work?
Well, common opponents. Well, the one common opponent with the different outcomes, Alabama. LSU beat them, Georgia lost to them.
Okay, I got you.
And the same thing, if Tennessee beats Georgia, LSU beat Arkansas, Tennessee lost to Arkansas.
Okay.
So and his kicker now, you might, if I'm doing, you can double check, but I think, okay, A&M can lose to South Carolina this Saturday and still control their own destiny because they
by winning out after that. Yeah.
Now, if they win out until they lose to Texas, that's a whole new thing. And but anyway, if LSU, I'm just saying for a rematch, LSU and South Carolina, A&M, if they both went out, they're definitely going to play each other again. And
would be interesting. Of course, there's a lot of football between now and then, and obviously Alabama's hoping to make put a fly in that ointment by going down to Baton Rouge, winning that game. So
yeah. Now as far as Alabama hosting, say they lose, get in with 2 losses, they'd have to get as high as number 8 to host the first round game. Now they need to hope if they beat LSU, they need to have LSU win the rest of their games because that's going to.
I agree. I'm just basing, just like I said last year when a lot of people were telling me that Alabama wouldn't get in the playoff. I just said there's no way they're keeping a one-team playoff, Alabama team out of the playoff, and they didn't. And I think if Alabama goes 10-2, I think the dominoes will fall where they need to fall for Alabama to host. Now, I could be wrong, but that's just me knowing the brand, knowing what Alabama has meant to college football, and feeling like if they run the table and they get to 10-2, they're going to be one of those top 8 seeds. That's my take. It could be completely wrong. First of all, they got to win 4 more football games to even make it a possibility.
The resume if LSU goes undefeated the rest of the year, because if LSU lost 2 more games, then the only thing Alabama's going to be able to hang their hat on for the most part is beating Georgia. So
unless Missouri finished strong, if Missouri would have went out too, that would help them. But it would have been better for Alabama from that standpoint that you're talking about. If LSU had won that game against A&M, it would have been, much bigger opportunity for Alabama. But still, LSU hasn't lost at home so far this season, and to go in there and win is always a tough chore. And if Alabama gets that, that's going to be viewed as a quality win regardless. But hey, listen, the bottom line is, Jim, if Alabama doesn't take care of its own business, it's not going to matter. And, they've got to win 4 games in a row. And I think they can, but, they're going to need to take care of their own business and not really worry about it.
One more quick thing. The thing about the 12-team playoff for us this year, I guess the good thing about it is as far as first round matchups, everybody's probably going to have a chance,
I agree with that. I think if you make it in, especially in that first round, you're going to have a chance to win your game. I don't think there'll be a game that's on the schedule where you just say, no, that team doesn't have a chance. I'm with you all the way. And I think you have a chance if you get in, even if you have to play that first week to win it all. I think there's some teams that, the 4 teams that have byes, I don't think it's necessarily we're going to say, well, that's one of those teams that's going to win the national championship. So I think there's a lot of parity, and that's why it's important if you can just get in. If you can just get into the playoff, I think you're going to have a shot.
And like I told you before, ain't really the 4 teams to get in ain't really got a bye because they haven't played that extra conference championship game to begin with. That's their first game. So even though they could lose, still play again, but then that'd be even more games.
That's really the tough one is if you get to the SEC championship game and you lose and then you still get in the playoff, you really, like you said, you really kind of somewhat penalized for the amount of games that you're going to have to play. But that's the system that we have. So it is what it is.
It won't be long. It's going to go to 16. I mean,
it is.
Now, it just keeps on. It'd be like basketball for us all over with. But,
it is going to 16. There's no doubt about it. So that's just part of it. Money, more TV opportunities. That's what's going to dictate college football in the future, and it already is. I wouldn't be shocked, to be honest with you, if they, after this one season, they say, oh, it was such a great success, they don't go ahead and push it to 16 for next year. Wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah, because there's going to be some teams that 13, 14, 15 is going to be crying they didn't get in,
They will be. You're absolutely right. And they'll probably have a good case. I mean, that's the thing. Now that we've opened it up, we've started extending the playoffs, there's going to be, and even if you go to 16, there's going to be some teams that say they should have gotten in, but I don't, there's no way to go past 16 in my opinion. So I think that'll be the limit.
Here's the best thing can happen as far as if Texas, if a 4-way tie in the SEC, which can still happen, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be such an outcry of the tiebreaker, how it's going to come down to common opponents and all that stuff, or the percent. I mean, where maybe they will go to 4 divisions or something to have a semifinal or something, because it's, unless it's just clear cut every year with somebody like 2 teams or 1 loss or undefeated. If you got a bunch of teams, like a 4-way tie, there's going to be some people not happy,
Mm-hmm.
So I hope they go to something else. Like say, there's still reason to keep expanding, and then you're not even expanding the amount of games you'll play in the conference.
That's right. Great call as always, Jim. Appreciate you, man.
All
right, it's 10:27 here on the Gary Harris Show, and I got to play Tall Pines recently, and let me tell you what, it's in great shape. It really is in good shape. This is the best time of the year to play golf, and I'm telling you right now, get out and take advantage of this incredible weather. Do it, and do it at Tall Pines Golf Club. Call to make a tee time, 205-556-1232. 556-1232, open Tuesday through Sunday for public play. Tall Pines Golf Club, a hidden gem.
You'll be feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
It's 10:31. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and it is time for Casey Smith on golf. And Casey, good morning. I really thought we were going to be talking about a Justin Thomas breakthrough, his first win in 29 months at the Zozo Championship, and we very easily could have been. This was a case I texted you last night, and you agreed that, he had 1 bogey in 72 holes. He hit it beautifully. He was the best player in the field. He had the most career victories in the field. And he did everything that he needed to do to win the golf tournament other than on Sunday. He just he didn't putt bad. They just didn't go in. I mean, he hit a lot of good putts on that back 9. If just one of those putts drops, he probably wins the tournament. But I don't know what else you could say. He came up just a little bit short, but it wasn't a case where he didn't play well. He played great.
Yeah, I'm with you. We occasionally have been, critical because we care of some of his putting, but I agree. I thought he played really well, and I thought he putted really well. It's one of those deals where I was shocked at the amount of a handful of putts that look like they're going in on the way to the hole and just barely miss. And that happens in golf. If you play golf, you know how that goes. And there are days when you're, like he looked like he could have made 10 or 12 birdies yesterday. And some of those days happen when you do. I mean, he shot 59 in the tournament before. So, yeah, we see a lot of trending up, which is great. And the ball striking was flush. The results followed. And, 66, 64, 65, 66. You take that every week and take his chances and win a lot more than he wouldn't. Congrats to Nico Echevarria for really holding off JT and Max Greiserman, who also had a putt to tie on 18. It looked like it was going in. I mean, JT and Kreiserman both had putts that I thought, bang, they're going in. This is a playoff tournament. Neither one go in. And this is at the Zozo in Japan. And it's the second win for Echevarria. He played golf at Arkansas. First came to Puerto Rico last year. But obviously, it gets him almost to inside the top 50. And some of the stuff that we're tracking, that's another benchmark, because if you end the season with 3 tournaments left ahead, which this week's an off week, and then the tour comes back for Diamante next week at Tiger Woods course, then Bermuda and the RSM at Sea Island. So 3 weeks on in the coast wouldn't be a bad thing to be a PGA Tour player right now. But they're all trying to get into these certain groups. Some are trying to get inside the top 125. Some are trying to get inside the top 150 or get it where they can to get stats. And then some are trying to get inside that top 50, like Echevarria, a couple of our guys, if they could, have a good finish in the fall, they might slip inside that top 50 if they're not already, due to winning, already in there like some of our guys are. So, yeah, a lot to follow. I think JT now goes back and he's going to be a dad, become a dad, and best of luck and congrats to them. And then our other guys all have some work cut out to do here. And so we're going to need, as it relates today in the latest update, JT's at 14th. Really didn't move up much because the guys ahead of him, Sepp Straka 27th, Davis Thompson from Auburn's 34th, Nick Dunlap 49th, Pat Gazar 74th, Lee Hodges 78th, Davis Rowley 84, Bud Cauley 149, which is, he didn't really move, which is fine, having the weeks he has ahead. Robbie Shelton 156, and Trey Mullinax, Whit Wilson for 183, Trey Mullinax 200. So really important golf ahead for all of those guys mentioned.
Yeah, Echevarria, give him credit. 30 years old, so it's not like he's a young guy. I mean, he's young, but he's not. He's been kicking around after, as you said, played at Arkansas. But he went birdie par birdie, and so he earned it. But back to JT, because there's so many things that I saw in this tournament that just reminded me of prime Justin Thomas from 5 years ago. I mean, the authority in which he played, the no, indecision. He looked. His setup looked great, and then the putting, he made a lot of putts. He didn't make many on Sunday, but he's not fooling around either. There's none of this aim point mess and taking forever. He's reading the putt. He's not asking for any help from the caddy. He's reading the putt. He's lining it up. He's hitting it. And I
thought it looked a million times better. Better. It's funny how where he's been and where we both are seeing the same thing, watching him intently. I was like, dang, am I watching it? I truly thought this when I turned it on. I thought, am I watching a delayed coverage, some replay, because they're under a weather delay of him winning in Asia? Because it looked like Justin Thomas in prime. So it's good. People like ourselves that follow him closely, if we can see that, you can sense that's why he's walking with a lot more confidence. It looks a lot more intent in all of the shots. I didn't see any doubting, second guessing. I didn't really see him get frustrated either, which is good. So playing with a very, like you said, a very, very level-headed, even keel with a lot of intent. So if he can keep that up when he returns for, now he'll be off until the Maui event. And because based on where he finished, he gets in that event. So we should see him there. Hopefully, if he'll play like he played this week, he's going to have a really big year next year.
All right, let me ask you about Nick Dunlap, because I'm curious. You mentioned what's left for the fall, rest of the three events. Do you know what his plans are? I thought he might play the Zozo Championship. I'm a little surprised that I know he's in the top 50, but that he's not playing a little more golf. What's his plans? Do you know?
They can get in and out. He has the liberty to opt in and out each week. And so for next week's event, that'll come out closer to the end of the week, early next week. Be something to keep an eye on. I would assume we would see him. I thought we would see him at least one more time between now and the end of the season. He's obviously played Sea Island a lot, playing at Alabama, They had junior events there as kids that he played in. And then obviously at Alabama, you played the SEC championship. He only played in one because of the way he turned pro. But he's obviously gotten a lot of rounds down there, and that's an end of season. So that really wouldn't surprise me if you saw him there. This week going to Cabo, or next week going to Cabo, playing Tigers course. You know, who knows? And Bermuda is always could be dicey this time of year, and the weather can be a little cooler. So I would say, just guessing, it would be based on playing, prior golf and rounds under his belt would be probably Sea Island, but that's a long break to then come back to try to finish your year. Hate to see him finish there and have a good finish and then kill some of his momentum. So I'm with you. I'd love to see him play again and just continue to get rounds under his belt. And I mean, at the rate he plays, he can win any week.
With that in mind, now he'll have the experience of having been through it. Do you expect Dunlap to win? He won multiple tournaments in his first year. Of course, one as an amateur. Do you expect him to win multiple tournaments and compete in majors in 2025?
I do. I'm sure he believes the same thing. I think he's a top, take the rankings out of it and just what you see and with your eyes and then what you see with his results. I think he's a top 20 player in the world right now, and that's LIV included. The skill set, speaks for itself. Ability to make birdies is crazy. And now he's going to get to go build a schedule. And golf is so much horses for courses. This past year, he had to play tournaments that he might have not have wanted to play that course. And obviously, he's probably grateful he has that opportunity. But you really, the key of getting to where he's gotten to and being a multiple winner is he can put the schedule for the courses and schedule that best suits his game, and he doesn't have to go play some place he really just doesn't like it. And that's where you can really, gain more confidence, gain more wins. The majors are just so hard to win. That'll be interesting to see. He obviously got really nervous last year at Augusta, admitted that he just wasn't expecting that. But then I think everything else from there, he didn't have any of those nerves. So I think you'll just see that first year trying to figure out where to stay, where to eat, where to ride, who to do everything with, who's your team. All that stuff's behind him now. He knows where to go, what to do, and probably how to get his body ready from going from a junior golfer, amateur golfer, college golf, all so quick. College golfer to now you're playing the professional PGA Tour. All happens in a week, right? I mean, he was planning to come back to Alabama and then play with his college teammates, and he's still playing a PGA Tour wraparound season if he wants to play in those events. But had he not won, he'd be playing in all these events.
That's right. All right. Before we move to a little football, what else? Anything else on golf that you want to?
Yeah, I mean, you got this week. I did hear one thing is good. Augusta National. I've seen some of the photos. Storm, massive issues everywhere. They opened the golf course late. They usually open it on October 15th for play, and this year they're going to open it on November 7th. They can make miracles happen. I've never seen so much damage when you look at it, what it looks like aesthetically during the tournament, or even been there when it's closed, to now what it looked like then post-storm to now it looks like it's fully put back together and nothing's ever happened. So I was concerned after seeing that, some of the pictures that had gotten out, and the guy knows got a drone, did some drone photos, and it looked really bad. But obviously they've done their job and they're barreling ahead. So if it's open for member play, then the tournament will go on in April.
Good. That's what we're hoping for sure. All right, Alabama football got back on track, and not just on track, but an impressive 34-0 shutout victory. And granted, Missouri was not at full strength on offense. We know that, but that's not Alabama's fault. And to get a shutout, Casey, how much does that do for this team going into the bye week before having to go down to LSU?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I was standing on my feet, hollering for them, saying that, and people were watching with. That's a big statement for your team. You can do that and get a stop. It really, playing for something like that for pride, and you can really get your team. I feel like you're great for the culture, but your intensity level, knowing that you can go back to that place and sort of point to that when you get in tough moments. And so big congrats to them. I was a little critical and want to give out all the congrats. They played with a lot of intensity and, pride and performance is there. So if we play like that, we should be able to beat anyone that's on the schedule going forward, and really until you get to the playoffs. But win out, I think you get in the playoffs, right?
I think so. That's my prediction. I think if Alabama's 10-2, they're in the playoffs. I think they'll be a top 8 seed, and I think they'll host a game. That's my – now, listen, we have to see how it all plays out, but you're not going to tell me that a 10-2 Alabama team that beat LSU and beat Georgia, beat what could turn out to be a pretty good Missouri team is not going to be in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think they're in if they run the table.
Good deal. Well, hey, they got to feel good about that. Maybe we'll get some people well and be a force. I didn't see anything out of LSU that scared me. I mean, you beat Georgia, you can beat anyone. And you just got to keep playing with that much intensity, right?
Absolutely. Hey, great stuff, Casey. Appreciate it as always, man.
Great one. Yes, sir.
All right, Casey Smith joining us this morning, doing a great job, as he always does here on the Gary Harris Show. All right, it's 10:44, and definitely want to remind you that I'm involved with some great places for lunch every day, and one of them, of course, is Who's Q and Brew in Tuscaloosa in the Northridge Center off Highway 82 for lunch. They have afternoon lunch specials, evening specials, great full bar, 17 TVs, buzz time trivia. It's just a really cool place to hang out and some of the best barbecue you're going to find anywhere. Who's Q and Brew off Highway 82 in the Northridge Center. Get by and join them for lunch here beginning at 11 a.m. All right, we got one segment to go here on the program, and we're wide open for phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline at 205-342-9904. Let's hear from you. Get us fired up about this Alabama football team for the final 4 games of the season. And if they win them, do you think they're going to be in the college football playoff? I do. What do you think? Let me hear from you. We'll be back with more of the Gary Harris Show right after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, we're going to recap Alabama and the Missouri Tigers. We're going to do that with Barrett Sallee. We'll also do that with Martin Houston. We'll start at 2 o'clock with the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is sponsored by Daniel Moore Art, and the bad and the ugly is sponsored by You Know Who. We'll talk about it starting at 2 o'clock right here on The Game. T-Town Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the road.
It's to be. Visit us now to save big and discover why so many are switching to BMW. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first date at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house.
Northport, just before Carroll's Creek Baptist Church. Sponsored by Black Warrior Marine, Castaway Fish Co., Riverside Feed and Seed, and Adams Heating and Cooling.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by...
Take care of any problems you got with a damp crawl space or a crack in your foundation. They even do pest control and lawn care. Full service Alabama Professional Services at alabamaprofessional.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today. The high for this afternoon around 80. Tonight mostly fair with the low at 57. The long dry spell continues tomorrow and Wednesday. Partially sunny both days. Highs between 79 and 82. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 70 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Roll Tide. The best sports talk, period. Your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:50 on this edition of the Gary Harris Show. We're winding it down, but we're not done yet. We've got another segment to go before we close it out and make way for T-Town Sports Daily at the top of the hour. So your phone calls are welcome in this segment. 205-342-9904. As I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts on do you think Alabama's going to finish the drill and close the season out with 4 straight wins? If they do, I think they're in the playoff. Do you agree? And if they do, that means that they're going to have some really nice wins along the way. Obviously, at LSU would be a huge win for Alabama football. At Oklahoma would still be a nice win, regardless of what the Sooners have done so far this season. It's out there on the road against a tradition-laden program, and then clearly the Iron Bowl would be big for Kalen DeBoer in his first season. It'd also be 5 straight wins for Alabama over Auburn, and that will be, if it happens, the longest streak for Alabama in this game since Coach Bryant won 9 in a row between 73 and 81. Of course, Bryant went 19-6 against Auburn and won 9 in a row, and most people that follow Alabama football feel like he should have been 21-4 and finished out with a 12-game winning streak, because most Alabama fans will tell you that the 72 game, the Bama punt game, Alabama should have obviously won that game. That was a flukish game. And then in 82, most Alabama fans feel like they were a better team than Auburn that year. And Auburn won 23-22, bow over the top. But Alabama outgained Auburn in the game, and in the first half really controlled the game. But, and of course, turnovers hurt. And then the Bo Jackson touchdown that a lot of people feel like still today that he didn't score on. The officials ruled that he broke the plane. And, Alabama could have, if they win in 72 and they win in 82, then that's a 12-game winning streak to end Coach Bryant's career against Auburn, and also would have made him 21-4 all time. Coach Saban went 12-5 against Auburn in his 17 seasons. So both Bryant and Saban had great success against the Tigers, although Auburn, and you add LSU in there too, they beat Saban more than anybody else did, but still we're on the wrong end of the numbers. But for Alabama this year, this Iron Bowl is going to be huge. It's at home. Again, to get to 5 in a row, I think would be noteworthy. We beat your in-state rival, because you look at Saban, what he was able to do against other teams, even though he was 12-5 against Auburn. We know he was 16-1 against Tennessee, and dominated most rivals completely one-sided. So give Auburn credit. They managed to win a few against Saban, although, again, 12-5 is still not bad, and 4 in a row to end his career as the Alabama coach. And DeBoer hoping to pick up on that and carry on this year. So Alabama football is not anywhere close to the finish line yet, but you can see it from here. There's no doubt about that. You can see it from here, and to know that if you can finish off this final third of the season 4-0, which would be really, really big. You could finish the season. You started the season 4-0, and you could finish it 4-0. In between, in the middle third, you would have gone 2-2. But if you start 4-0 and you finish 4-0, that's going to give you an opportunity, as I said, to be in position to be in that college football playoff. And if you can do that, then you take the chances. You get in. If you're in the tournament, you got a chance. And that's all Alabama's looking to do now. I don't think they're going to get to Atlanta. I guess it's theoretically possible to have a bunch of teams with 2 losses. And if that were to be the case, then Alabama would be in a tiebreaker situation to get to Atlanta. But, I just don't feel like it's going to happen. If you get A&M, obviously stays undefeated or has 1 loss, they're going for sure. You got Texas with 1 loss right now. You've got LSU with 1 loss in the conference. You got Tennessee with 1 loss in the conference. You got Georgia with one loss in the conference. So there's still a lot of one-loss teams, plus A&M being undefeated. So I don't think Alabama's going to make it to Atlanta, which is disappointing because, as I've said before, I'm a big SEC championship guy. I think the fact that Saban won, the 6 national titles, it clearly is incredible. But he won 9 conference championships. He won 9 SEC titles, and I think that's something that Alabama takes pride in and should. It's hard to win the SEC. So if Alabama doesn't make it to Atlanta, plus I love going over for that game in early December. I love going to Atlanta for the SEC championship game in early December, and I'll miss that if it isn't the case, and have to watch somebody else play in that game. But getting to the college football playoff is the main goal for everybody. So if you can get there, whether you won your conference championship or played the conference championship game or not, getting to the college football playoff is the big goal now for all of these teams. So if Alabama can do that, finish 10-2 and get in the playoff, there's no way in the world that you could say this wasn't a successful season for Kalen DeBoer in his first season as Alabama's head coach. And that would be big because I'm like everybody else. You've heard me on this show the last couple of weeks. I've questioned where they're at in terms of their coaching, in terms of what they're doing here with this team. But now after this win, 34-0 over Missouri, you're feeling good, and you got a week to kind of, relax a little bit. Fans do anyway. Players will still be preparing, but not preparing for a game this weekend. They've got a week before they play at LSU, so they should be healthier. They should be dialed in. Of course, LSU the same thing, but still, like Rodney Orr said earlier in the show, coming off their bye before Georgia, boy, they really had some stuff that they had put together for Georgia that they sprung on them. So you're hoping that'll be a very similar scenario for Alabama to spring on LSU when they go to Baton Rouge a week from Saturday. That's the plan anyway. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the show. We appreciate you tuning in. A reminder, catch me on TV tonight with your local sports on WVUA 23, and we are working hard to get our transmitter repaired, and hopefully we'll be back at full power before long. I'll be back tomorrow with a Tuesday edition of the show. Always enjoy having Drudy Arman on and Kayla Anderson with the Titans Report. We'll have that for you tomorrow here on the Gary Harris Show. Okay, get ready for T-Town Sports Daily at the top of the hour. Then the Miller's Edge, followed by the game with Ryan Fowler. So have a great afternoon. Enjoy this beautiful weather as it continues. And I will visit with you again in the morning at 9 a.m. For Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. So long, everybody.